Okay, so last time you guys were with me, we started into statistics. And it was very fitting we actually started with sampling, because when the information, the statistics you have has to start somewhere. That has to be from something. And sampling is one good source that, of course, all statistics come from. So, if you guys get into college and you're going to be a business major, you're going to have your own business, for example, you want to be able to strategically look at numbers, look at results, and make good, smart decisions on, if it's a food business of some sort, how much food to order. If you have certain customers, you want to be able to either pull more customers in. You might want to find out what they like, what they prefer. Just different things when it comes to business, and you have to know how to read data. All right, statistics. So I'm going to, during this chapter, we're going to talk a lot about like strategies and ways to look at the data. All right, the numbers that you get from those surveys. Okay, from the sampling. So today we're going to deal with something called measures of center, and there's a good chance that many of you guys know much of the measures of center, either from elementary school or just measures of center are all around us. And actually, one of them is, if you're a sports fan, okay, you don't have to be a sports fan to know this stuff, but you hear it in sports too, all the time. So with that said, let's talk about this. All right, the very first word, let's just start very basic. Statistics, everyone? Statistics. All right, so statistics, they say, is the branch of mathematics that deals with collecting, organizing, and interpreting data. Talk about branch of mathematics, right? Other branches are geometry, algebra, calculus, things like that, okay? Statistics is another branch, and that's what we're talking about. So in your little box off to the side, you guys will see statistics in a lot of different things in life, right? I talked about sports. Well, baseball, bowling, those are a couple of sports. You talk about a major sport, you talk about a more casual sport, but some, things that people love maybe doing rather than watching, but some people watch it. And then even more importantly, school grades, right? Those letters, right, that you get called grades, they don't just come from nowhere, they come from statistics, okay, from numbers, from breaking down numbers. All right, and then we're taking those statistics today, and we're talking exactly about what the title of our lesson is, and that's measures of center. Everyone? Measures of center. So here's what measures of center would be. It says for a list of numerical data, numbers that can represent the center of the data. Okay? Numbers that's what measures of center is. It's not always the exact center, maybe sometimes, but it's, if you have a bunch of numbers, what represents around the middle? Okay. So here we go. Mean, median, and mode. How many of you guys have heard of mean, median, mode? Okay. See? So that's what we're talking about. All right, here we go. That is it for words. It's only the two for this lesson. Let's go to grab our book. Flip over to book page 437. All right, so after you have your name on it, taking a look at number 7, it says, first of all, directions are pretty important. It says, find the mean, median, and mode for each set of data. If necessary, round to the nearest whole number. So on the first one, it's just a listing. It says, on number 7, it says the price in dollars of digital cameras. So we have 250. Then the second one is $200. The third one is $320. The next one is $235. The one after that is $265. And the last one is $200. Now with listings, I'm definitely going to count how many I have just to make sure that they match up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then down here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I still have 6, so I must have gotten them all. Okay. Now, when you are dealing with mean, median, and mode, especially if you have all 3 of them to do, here would be the steps that I would take. So step 1 is list them least to greatest. And I'm going to list them vertically. So 200. Now, when I list them, I'm going to want to check them off. Okay? It's very easy, especially when you have a list of 15 things. You don't want to miss anything, because if you do, it's going to alter your data and it's going to be incorrect. So I have 200. The next smallest is right here. It's also 200. The next smallest is 235, so I'll check it off and write it down. Then 250. And then 265. And then 320. All right, mean, median, and mode. So here's what we're going to start with. Step 2. Let's start with this one. Let's do our mode. Now, a little reminder on mode. All right, it may have been a while, but I always think of mode, the initial double consonant sound, mo, is the same as most. I know it's kind of a corny way of thinking about it, but that's kind of what mode is. It's which one shows up the most in our data, the most frequent. Now, sometimes, okay, you can have more than one answer. Sometimes there might not be any mode, all right, meaning that they all just show up once. Well, in this case, it's obviously 200. It shows up twice. Everything else just shows up once. Okay? Step 3. And we're just kind of walking through these. Step 3, let's go ahead and do this one, the median. You're on a highway driving in a car, all right? Or I should say for you guys, riding in a car, right? And cars are going both ways. What's that thing in between the lanes called?
A median.
It's called a median. It's in the middle of the 2 lanes. Now that is a way you can remember this. The median is the middle number. Now here's the issue. There's only a middle number. Think about it. There's only a middle number if there's an odd amount of numbers in your data. And in this case, there's an even amount. Okay? So in this case, I'll put a little star by it. Sometimes it's just the middle, but if not, take your 2 middles and you're going to find the average of the 2. All right? Or, of course, the mean. So here's what we're doing. We're going to add them up. Just a little reminder, we're going to add up 250 plus 235. So we get 5, 8, and 4. And then it's 485. And then I'm going to go ahead and take that sum, and when you divide it by how many you just added up, how many sets in your data, and it's just 2. So 485 divided by 2. Okay, and if you want, I would suggest using a calculator. 485 divided by 2 equals, and I get 242.5. Now, since we're talking about dollars, that would be $242.50. Now, someone could make the argument that the directions say, if necessary, round to the nearest whole number. So, in the book, I'm looking at the key right now, and it'll probably be the reason why I'm telling you this will probably be the key when we correct it on Tuesday. But the key does say $242.50 because it's talking about money. Okay, But if you round it to 243 because you followed the directions, I'll take that, because that's kind of what the directions say anyway. That would be, it's not necessary though, right? Because there is such thing as 50 cents. So I think that's why the change is there. Okay, so median's the middle, but if there's two middles, because it's an even amount of data, then you average them out by adding the two of them up and then dividing by 2. And now that gets us warmed up for step 4, and that is we're going to find the mean, also known as average. All right, so the mean is more commonly known as average. It is, we see them all around us. If you play in a bowling league, for example, you have a bowling average. More importantly, more common, I guess you should say, is, I wasn't a baseball player, but I do watch baseball at times. Baseball players have batting averages. Okay, same kind of thing. It's their average. So that's what the mean is. So here's how you do it, just as a reminder, and we just did a small version of this, right? Is I'm going to add up all these numbers. So probably could just add them up without the calculator. 5 plus 5 is 10, carry the 1. That is 8 plus 5 is 13, plus 3 is 16, plus 1 is 17. Carry the 1. And I have 3 and 1 up here is 4. And now I can count by 2s. 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So then I take the 1,470 and divide by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, since there were 6 pieces of data there. So 1470 divided by 6 equals 245. And that is the average price of the camera, or the mean. Now what we're going to do in a bit is we're going to talk about why are there 3 different types, because some of them are better to use in certain situations than others. Okay, and we'll talk more about that in a bit, but for right now, just the individual skill is what you need to know on this type of problem. Okay, so with that said, any questions? We're okay? All right, here's one I want you guys to try out. Try out problem number 6, the one right before that. Problem number 6. All right, go. Okay, how many of you need more time? Okay. Give you a few more seconds there. I'll check with you in just a bit. All right, how many of you are still in need of more time? Okay, 30 seconds. Go ahead and share your answers right now. Go.
For the mode, I didn't get a mode. The median, I got 60, and the mean, I got 75 or 57.
For the mode, I didn't get anything. For the median, I got 60. For the mean, I got 57.
Okay, so here we go. I'm going to come up here. So step one, I said put it from least to greatest. It serves a number of different purposes. When you put it least to greatest, you know that your duplicates, meaning the number that shows up more than once, will always end up next to each other, so they're easy to see that way. So when it comes to finding your mode, it makes it a little easier. Your median, then, you can look at where the middle of the data is if they're all from least to greatest, because that's what you'll need to do anyway to choose your center, or your two center problems, or numbers for your median. All right, and if you do it vertically, when you're doing all that, it already sets it up for the mean, especially, of course, if you don't have a calculator. Okay. The other thing is when we put it in order, it's going to help us in some ways in future lessons as well if we get in that habit of doing that. So here we go. Number 6, right? Same idea. Mean, median, and mode. It says the minutes spent biking each day in 1 week. All right. So we're looking for kind of the middle ground of about how long was it each day that the bike was ridden. So here we go. Least to greatest. I'm going to take a look, and my smallest number is 30. The next smallest number would be 35. The next smallest number is 45. The next smallest number is 60. After that is 65. Then 74. And then finally 90. So if I want to double check, make sure I didn't miss any 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Check in the book. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, looks pretty good. All right, so here we go. After I do that, and again, guys, step 2, 3, and 4, it doesn't matter which order you go in, right? I mean, I just kind of went in that order, but here we go. Mode. I just started with mode because it's usually one of the quickest and easiest. There are no repeating duplicates, right? So there's no mode. There are only one of each. Okay, median. There is an odd amount on this one, right? So 3 here, 3 here. There's our median right there at 60. And then the mean. So average it out. So if I do this, you can use a calculator if you want. I didn't use a calculator last time, but you can, just because I wanted those on your notes, but you can use it. 30 plus 35 plus 45 plus 60 plus 65 plus 74, and add on to it 90 equals 399. And then I've already counted them earlier. I have a total of 7, so I'm going to divide that by 7. So 399 divided by 7 equals 57. So our mean is 57. Okay. tell you what, let's do this. Because this is I did it without even mentioning it, but why don't we add a step, go back to your notes, let's add a little step 5, and that is, let's make sure that once we get our answers, put on your units. Because this basically is, even though it's statistics, it is a word problem. So in this case, right, we need to make sure that these have meaning, that's why. So I want to make sure I put it on here. So let me reread the sentence. It says, the minutes spent biking each day in 1 week. So the minutes. So the median was 60 minutes, and the mean was 57 minutes. And there, of course, there was no mode. All right, questions? Okay, so now we're going to take that information, like I said. We're going to take a look at number 4 on page 437, and we are going to talk about when to use which skill. All right, if this was, if you just have the numbers, you need to find a middle value, all right, a measure of center. Which one would be more accurate to give you some more accurate feedback, okay, and why is that? So here we go. Taking a look at number 4, let's close read that. It says, the students of different 8th grade read 38, 45, 26, 51, 42, 38, 50, and 58 books for a reading competition. Which measure of center best represents the data? Justify your selection and then find the measure of center. Okay? Now, so here is something that I realized, and so let me go ahead and I'll use the blue pen on this one. I'm going to list these because visually on the lesson it's easier to see them, and it helps out a little bit. But they were 38, 45, 26, 51, 42, 38, and 50. Okay, so here's the thing about all 3 of these, okay? Mode is, of course, the one that shows up the most. But if the lowest one shows up the most, like this one, look how far apart the mode was from the other 2. Okay? So while mode is a very quick and a lot of times an easy way to find it, it's not always the most accurate. Okay? Especially if the mode is one of the extremes, meaning one that's really small or really large compared to the rest of the data. Okay? Now, here's the thing, and when we talk about this, okay, the mean, okay, or the average, you will find in life is one of the most used ones, all right, the most used measures of center. And the reason is because it's one of the most accurate for the most part, okay? However, it has a problem. Is when there is an extreme to it. Think about what we did to find the mean. We added them all up, and then we divided by how many there were. But if you have an extreme, let's say the price of all the cameras, let's say we had a 7th camera that someone found on Amazon for 15 bucks. Okay? And now, of course, that's very drastic, but it gives you a rough idea. What do you think? Think about it. We are adding all of them together. That is going to go up just to $14.85, a little more. But now we're not dividing it by 6, we're dividing it by 7. What do you think is going to happen to the mean? It's going to change, but like which way? It's going to drop. It's actually going to drop a considerable amount. And it's going to really alter our answer, which makes it skews our answer a little bit. It makes it probably less accurate because of just some one camera that was out there that had a real good deal on it on Amazon or something like that, okay? When it realistically, it wasn't really representative of all the other data. All right, we'll talk more about what that's called in our next lesson. So, but we'll call it an extreme right now, just an extreme low, all right? So, in this case, a lot of times that's what you want to look for. You want to look for extremes, all right? So if we take a look here in this data, right, 26, 38, 38, 40, okay, 45, 42, 50, 51, all right? Taking a look there, are there any extreme values? It's kind of hard, and we'll talk more about extreme values, like I said, and we'll define that in a later, but just kind of eyeing it. Take a look, 26 and 38, that's 12 apart, but then you go 38 to 42, all right, that's another 4 up, then 42 to, that's 3, right? So you take a look at the jumps that are happening, okay, and it's not like going from 200 down to 15, right? There's no extremes like that. So taking a look at problem number 4, okay, if there are no extremes to alter our data, you're going to put the mean. And remember the question says, which measure center best represents the data and justify your selection. But then it says, then find the measure of center. So we'll get there. So step 1 is state which one is best, all right, obviously. And then step 2, and you might even want to switch them back around, right? Step 1 is, of course, you're going to want to study it and come up with an answer first. So step 1 is, of course, there's no extreme data. So I guess I could say because I already started writing the sentence, there is no extreme data. So therefore, it's the mean. Now, of course, they want us to find the mean, right? So that would be step 3. I left out probably. Oh yeah. Thank you guys. I'm sitting there over those two, right? That's a perfect reason why to count your numbers. Some of you guys realize I left out 1, so always recount your numbers. That's why you saw me do on the first 2, and I started speeding up a little bit, and that's exactly why. So 1, 2. Actually, I meant to do that. I just see if you guys would catch it, you know. Yeah, good job, guys. I didn't fool you. All right. So, and up to this point, is 58 an extreme? No. So it doesn't. I mean, so far it doesn't change our answer. This next part, right, would have been crucial. That would have changed our answer. So this is, of course, step 3, and that is now it tells us to actually find the measure of center. In this case, we're going to use the mean, and so we go ahead and. Now, I don't have to really list them least to greatest because that is usually known for finding either the mode or the median. But since we're finding the mean and we have a calculator in front of us, we can add them up. So 38 plus 45 plus 26 plus 51 plus 42 plus 38 plus 50 plus 58 equals 348. And then I'm going to divide by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So divided by 8 equals, and we end up with 43 and 5/10, 43.5 or 43 and a half. It does not say to round, so we don't have to worry about that. But then, of course, we talked about it earlier. In this case, make sure, because we're talking about a word problem, put your units on. So it says the students of different 8th grade homerooms read this many books. So that it is 43.5 books. So the answer is the mean, because there's no extreme data or values. And once we found the mean, it was 43.5 books was our measures of center. Okay, guys, questions? All right, so like I said, we're taking what we know about mode, median, and mean, right, and knowing how to solve it and use those, but knowing when to use them is pretty important. All right. No questions? All right, here's one I want you guys to try. Try out, same page, problem number 9, down at the bottom there, problem number 9. All right. Anyone need more time on that one? Okay. Anyone still need more time on number 9? Okay, just about 15 more seconds, and then I'll have you guys share. Okay, go ahead, turn to your neighbor, and sure, go.
I put mean because those three did. They were 855 for Philippines.
I think it was me.
All right, here we go. So number 9 says the table shows the football teams with the most all-time wins. Which measure of center best represents the data? Justify your selection and find the measure of center. All right, so we have, 5 programs, 5 universities with the all-time football wins.
Yeah, one more quiz from there. And this is Mark, Darren, and Robert.
Awesome. Thank you.
Isabel, and Sage have conversation.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so we have 5 programs, and it shows Michigan has 895 wins. Then you had Texas with 858, and then 853 for Notre Dame, 846 for Nebraska, and 825 for Ohio State. Okay? Now, some people will say, well, there's 95 is way far apart from 58. Yeah, but in the bigger scheme of things, we're talking not about 58 and 95. We're talking about 858 and 895. So an extreme would be something like, 1,200 or something like that, okay? So in reality, they're all kind of in that 800 range, all right? So bottom line is there's no extremes, all right? And I could even write that. There are no extremes. So therefore, the best would be the mean. Now obviously if I'm going to use the mean here, I'm going to add them all up. So I grab my calculator. 895 plus 858. Let me see. Oh yeah, there's only 5. So let me double check that for you guys. There, I have 5. So 858 plus 853 plus 846 plus 825 equals, so we get, bless you, 4,277, and I'm dividing by, like I just said, 5 equals, and so our average or our mean is 855 and 4/10. And does it say it around it? I do not believe so. So don't forget our units. That's all about the wins for the programs. All right, guys. Questions on that problem? Okay, I do have 2 that I want to kind of show you guys just really quickly in your book. Okay. On page 436, this is one of your book's examples, right in the middle of the page. It's the same kind of problem we were just working on. This one has to do with what? Pablo's sit-ups each day. Okay? Now, if you take a look, a majority of them are like almost around 40, maybe a little under 40, to what, 50? It's 37, right? A little under 40. 40 to 50? Is there an extreme value? 19. He took a big break on Wednesday, right? 19 sit-ups, all right? Lazy guy. So, here is, on something like this, all right, extremes do happen, right? We've been dealing with a couple that there weren't any extremes. If there's an extreme, though, what do you think would be the best? I mean, mean, right? We already talked about it. That extreme would probably bring down his sit-ups. It wouldn't give us an extremely accurate center measure. Anyone have another idea of probably what we should use? Probably the median, okay, because there's an extreme, okay? So, and I mean, you can't even go, can you go with mode? No, there's none that show up twice, right? So that doesn't help us either. So median would be the best. All right. So obviously you don't have to do that for homework, but I wanted to point that out because what you and I both did for our examples there, they kind of match up. Here's the other thing. There's like this challenge problem that my students have had problems with in the past. I'm going to kind of leave it more of a challenge problem, but I do want to kind of get you guys a start. If you take a look at number 14 on page 438, it says Winona needs to average 5 8/10 points from 14 judges to win the competition. The mean score of 13 judges was 5.9. What's the lowest score she can receive from the 14th judge and still win? Okay? So, here's what I would suggest. They are giving you the answer basically to the mean, or, well, not the final answer to the mean, right? But they're giving you a partial answer using the mean. I would suggest that you undo, hint, hint, you undo the mean, all right, a little bit on what they do give you. And then use some problem-solving strategies to find out the answer to that question, all right? All right, guys, so measures of center.